Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth just dropped bombs on the modern format, and a popular archetype just got some shiny new toys. Black-Green Yawgmoth is the modern format's premier creature-based combo strategy, but it's well known that it's not without its flaws. Its biggest problems are its susceptibility to Renin 6 and its inability to interact with threatening creatures at instant speed. These two new additions from Magic the Gathering's newest set help to fix both of these problems. Delighted Halfling also has the added bonus of making Yawgmoth, Hapatra, Grist, and Shieldred uncounterable, and Orcish Bowmasters acts as a pseudo wall of roots, flooding the board with extra creatures for your Chord of Calling. I'm telling you now that these cards play a huge role as we challenge for a trophy in today's video. The format is being put on notice. You've been warned. Kicking things off on the play, opening 7 looks great, we'll keep it. We're going to lead on our Catacombs, fetch out a basic land, Young Wolf, let's go. Opponent with a basic island into an Aether Vial. Feels like Merfolk. Another Young Wolf, not bad, we'll play it out. Play out our Catacombs, attack for 1. Pass it back to our opponent. Aether Vial ticks up to 1. Basic island number 2. We're going to fetch Overgrown Tomb, tapped, back to our turn. Eldritch Evolution, not terrible. We're just going to play out our land and pass. Opponent's bringing in a Hexcatcher. We're going to let that hit the battlefield. Opponent activates their Vial, we're going to respond. We're going to Chord for 2. Opponent sacrifices their Hexcatcher, which is what we were hoping for. Nothing on the Vial. Opponent ticks the Vial up to 2, untaps, plays out a Polluted Delta to a Tide Shaper, eats our Twilight Mirror, and we draw into a Halfling. I think we're just going to play out the Halfling, and we're just going to pass back to our opponent. They fetch Steam Vents, not sure what that's representing. Untap, Vial, stays at 2. Flooded Strand, no attacks, back to us. Beseiju, not terrible. I actually think we're going to play that out. Opponent Vial, we're going to Chord. Alright, we got a Yawg in play. Before this resolves, we're going to eat this Tide Shaper. Okay, Flame of Anor, which is what they are splashing the red for. Drew a Catacombs, drew an Evo. I'm going to sacrifice this Young Wolf one more time here. Draw another card. Another Yawgmoth, that's what we wanted. Killer Yawg, they draw 2 cards. We're going to kill the Tide Shaper, and their Vial puts nothing into play. Interesting. They fetch, Steam Vents, untap. Stay at 2 once more. Flooded Strand, they fetch, basic island into another Tide Shaper. Getting rid of the Tide Shaper is one of the keys in this matchup, as its Spreading Seas abilities, in combination with Lords, will make quick work of my life total. Draw a card, Pendelhaven. Forest, Yawgmoth, Yawg resolves. Probably should have attacked there. Opponent taps, Vial goes up to 2. Sacrifice Endurance, target the Master. Spawn with a Vial. Pretty sure we're just dead here. The Trickster targeting Yawgmoth. Okay, we'll scoop it up. Opening 7 looks good, we'll keep it. Burning Catacombs, fetch a basic into a Halfling. Opponent with a Spire Bluff and a Lightning Bolt. Was not expecting that. Basic Swamp and a Halfling. Try it again. Spire Bluff, Aether Vial. We'll untap. Drew a Forest. I think we're going to lead on our Grist here. Plus the Grist. Pass the turn. Vial goes up to 1. Basic Island. Lord of Atlantis. We'll untap. Haywire Might. Not bad. We're going to take up our Grist to start with. Cast an uncounterable Yawg. Target this Lord of Atlantis. Start dumping it down. Alright, there's the land we are looking for. We're going to play out our Might. Pass turn back. Opponent untaps. Tide Shaper unkicked. Untap, drawn to a Chord of Calling. Really good. We're going to uptick the Grist to start. We're going to sacrifice the Might, targeting the Vial. Opponent activates the Vial. We're going to flash in a Bowmaster in response. Opponent's going to Stern Scolding our Orcish Bowmasters. We will allow that to happen. We're going to cast Chord of Calling. X equals 1. Get ourselves Young Wolf. Young Wolf down the Tide Shaper. Shieldred into hand. Aether Vial puts a Master into play. We're going to dump down this Master. Alright. Opponent has 3 cards in hand. We have a full grip. Opponent scoops. Opening 7's a little sketchy, but I think this is still a keep. Opponent Spire Bluff. Nothing else. We're going to lead basic Forest into Young Wolf. It resolves. Opponent with an island. To a Tide Shaper kicked. Swing for 1. Opponent blocks. Excellent for us. Swamp. Bowmaster. Opponent with the Subtlety. We'll take that 2 for 1. I think we're going to put the Bowmaster on the bottom now. Opponent untaps. Plays an island. To a Soluian. Don't know how to pronounce that. That's fine. We're going to play out our Grist. And our opponent scoops. 1-0. Opening 7 against unknown opponent is very tempting. I think this is a little irresponsible, but I think we're going to keep this. We're going to lead with our fetch land. We're going to shock. We're going to play out our Hierarch. Opponent Lightning Bolts down our Hierarch. Back to us. Fortunately, we drew our second land. We're going to play out our Halfling. We're going to play out our Young Wolf. Opponent untaps, draws, plays out a Jetmir's Garden. Looks like creativity. Prismatic Ending. We'll untap, drew our third land. Things are going well so far. Twilight Mirror, Geist, crack for 3. Our opponent does nothing. Drew into a Yawgmoth. We're just going to hang tight. We're going to swing for 3. Opponent fetches, land tapped, Leyline Binding, hit down our Geist, hit for 1, pass back, Scalding Tarn, into a Fable. We are going to flash in the Bowmasters end of turn here. We'll hit them for 1. Drew into our land, that's what we are looking for. We're going to fetch Basic Forest, Yawgmoth, and we should be in okay shape now. Drew a second Young Wolf. Opponent fetches. We're going to draw a couple more cards here. Untapped. They're going to bolt the Bowmasters in response to the Fable. Bowmasters is particularly impactful against 2 cards in particular, Teferi, Time Raveler, and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, both which creativity plays. We're down at 10. We're going to get a Basic Forest, play out another Young Wolf. The opponent played a few more lands, and that was all she wrote. We were able to assemble our combo with little resistance from the opposite side of the table. Opponent scoops. Opening 7 looks acceptable, we'll keep it. Opponents on a Molded 6, they lead on an Arid Mesa. Our turn. Lead Forest into Delighted Halfling. What is a Halfling? We don't know. They fetch. Shock. Devastating. There goes a Halfling. Untap back to them. Stomping Ground. Feels like a Wrenn and 6. And it is. They bring back a land. We untap. Drew another Forest. I think we're going to go Halfling into Hierarch. Okay, Wrenn and 6 pings down the Hierarch. Foothills. Fetch. Basic Mountain. Fable. Drew another Halfling. I think we're going to lead Grist. Beseiju. Halfling. I shouldn't have done that. Minus the Grist, we'll kill the Goblin. That was a mistake. Fable ticks up to 2. Spell Pierce, Wrenn and 6 hit the bin. Grist hits the bin. Arid Mesa, Cycle of Triome. Nothing else interesting. Drew a Yawg, cast a Geist, swing at Wrenn and 6. Seems they're going to be blocking it with a Dwarf. Sure, we're okay with that. Geist comes back, cast out a Haywire Might. We're going to eat this Fable. Plus on Wrenn and 6, land back to hand. 3 mana, Cycle of Triome. Been here, done this before. Bloodstained Mire into play. Black Source. It's kind of like a Black Source, sort of. Attacking a Wrenn and 6. Interesting, they let it happen. They fetch post blockers, get a Dwarven Mine. Unfortunately for them, they're not going to be able to block at this point. Wrenn and 6 down. So the question is, do they have a Spell Pierce? 1 has been discarded. I think we're going to try this. Sacrifice the Geist. And it worked. Y'all going to play. Alright, they untap. Arid Mesa. Alright, we're in it. Drew a Peatland. Start by sacrificing that, see if we can find a creature. We find another land. Not really what we're looking for. We're going to add a black mana. We're going to dump down this dwarf. We drew another land. Brutal. We're going to hold our Yawgmoth back and hope they don't have another dwarf. They are fetching. Not a good sign. Okay, just a Xander's Lounge. Opponent leads with a Surgical Extraction, targeting our Strangleroot Geist. Sacred Foundry, untapped. They shock. 4 mana. This is going to be a Prismatic Ending. Yawg down. Halfling not bad. Swamp. Opponent untaps. 1 land off of a hardcast Archon. Appears they don't have it. Drew a Force of Vigor. Play out a land. Uncounterable Yawgmoth. Back to our opponent. Rest in peace, sure. Untap. Okay, that's a good one. We're going to do this pre-combat. Really with attacks. Opponent's down 6. Lightning Bolt Hepatra. Sacrifice Hepatra, draw a card. Tap a bunch of lands. Attack for 3. Opponent's down to 3 life. 2 mana Dwarven Mine. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Opponent's Hellbent. We're going to get rid of the Rest in Peace in the Fable. We're going to fetch end of turn. Get our Dryad Arbor. Bowmaster's pretty good. Cast it out. Scoops. Third match, opening 7. We like it. Let's go. Basic Forest into a Halfling. Opponent Flooded Strand. Hallowed Fountain. Prismatic Ending, it seems. Untap. Twilight Mirror. Another Halfling. And an Ignoble. Snow-covered Island. Drew into a Hierarch. Lead on our Grist. Nice little perk of Halfling. Uncounterable. Despite the fact they have Counterspell mana up. Play out our Peatland. Ignoble number 2. Plus our Grist. And we're going to attack for 2. Opponent's down to 15. We're going to pick up the pace for the remainder of this game just because my opponent didn't really do anything. They cast a couple of Solitudes in an attempt to interact, and when I still had a board presence, they just scooped. Opening 7 looks great, we'll keep it. Opponent with Misty Rainforest, they pass the turn. We're going to fetch Shock here. We're going to play out our Ignoble. It's back to my opponent, they got a Triome end of turn. Play out a Scalding Tarn, pass back. Drew into a Thoughtseize, pretty good. Play out a land, lead on a Thoughtseize. Opponent fetches, shocks, counterspells. Play out our Geist, swing for 3. Flooded Strand, it's going to be a Prismatic Ending, hitting our Geist. We'll untap, drew into a Pendelhaven, play that out, 4 mana Yawgmoth. Opponent fetches, end of turn. Demolition Field, Cleansing Wildfire. Wasn't expecting that one. Untap. Drew a second Endurance. Leave with an attack for 3. We're going to play out this Young Wolf, possibly into counter magic. There it is. Pass back to our opponent. Snow-covered island. End of turn, we're going to flash an Endurance. I'm going to shuffle their graveyard. Draw another Ignoble. I think we're going to play that out. Opponent with a Solitude. Targeting Yogg. Thinking about proliferating here. I actually don't think I need to, though. We're going to attack for 4. Play out a land. Pass back. Opponent casts out Snow-covered island. Attacks for 2. I think we just take this. Untap. Bowmaster's not bad. Attack with Endurance. Swing for 4. They're down to 3. 5. A second Solitude. Target our Endurance. We're going to Bowmaster's end of turn. We'll hit down their first Solitude. Opponent attacks for 3. Should have blocked. That was a mistake because I had the Pendelhaven. Untap. Drew a Hepatra. Just going to attack for 1. Trigger. Ignoble, so it'll be 2. Put them down to 4. I think we're just going to pass from here again. Casting a Flame of Anor. They're going to draw 2 cards. It's going to trigger our Bowmasters twice. We're going to dump down their Solitude. Not sure they knew how that worked. Untap. Field of Ruin. In turn, I'm going to flash an Endurance. Untap. You don't have Thoughtseize, see what they're up to. Opponent has never tapped their mana so quickly. Solitude. They hit my Endurance. We're going to take the Snapcaster Mage. Attack with a 4/4. They have to block. Cast my Hepatra. Opponent with the Dress Down. It's not going to trigger my Bowmaster. Opponent land. Fetch. Basic. Archmage's Charm. Sure. Cleansing Wildfire. Not sure why they're targeting that one, but that's fine. Get a basic Forest. Field of Ruin targeting my Pendelhaven. Get another basic. Draw a card. Dress Down gone. Opponent's at 6 life. Swing for 3. Get rid of our Hierarch. Put another threat on the table. Play out a Halfling. Back to my opponent. Attack with the team. They scoop. On the play once more. We'll take it. Gigantha revealed on the other side of the battlefield. We'll keep our opening 7. Painful mana base though. Opponent keeps their 7. We're going to start Peatland into Halfling. Opponent Spirebluff Canal. Dragon's Rage. Okay. Mishra's Bauble. Iteration to the graveyard. Another Bauble. Another iteration to the graveyard. Opponent draws off their Bauble. We drew into a Wall of Roots. I actually think we're going to start there. Play out our wall. Second Peatland. Stringerroot Geist. We're going to smack for 2. Opponent takes it. Bauble me end of turn. They're going to draw 2. 1 off the Bauble. 1 for the draw step. Spirebluff. Second Dragon's Rage. Quick Clock. Lightning Bolt. Hit the Halfling. Ragavan to the graveyard. It's going to be 4 card types. Swing for 3. We're at 14. Drew into another Hierarch. Damage we're taking off our lands is brutal here. I think we're going to go Ignoble and Ignoble. Then I think we're just going to pass the turn. We have an Endurance if we want it. As long as they don't counter magic up. Lead on Iteration. Lightning Bolt. They do have a land. Attack with their Dragon's Rages. Cord for 3. Get our Endurance. Dump their graveyard. Seems they have an Unholy Heat targeting our Endurance. Take a hit for 2. Untap. Blood Artist is actually pretty good. Play out our Grist. Play out our Blood Artist. And swing for 4. Then we're going to minus Grist. Sack our Geist. Hit one of the Channelers. Blood Artist will trigger twice. Geist back in play. Opponent leads on a Shredder. Into an Unholy Heat. They hit down our Grist. Discard a Breach. Leave a card on top. Grist down. Untap. Draw into a Tomb. I think we start by drawing a card. Drew a Young Wolf. Attack for 5. No blocks from our opponent. So I have a little bit of a secret line here that I'm not sure my opponent's aware of. At any time I can minus my Wall of Roots to deal my opponent an extra point of damage with the Blood Artist, which might be just what I need to take me over the top and win the game. They fetch down to 4. Basic Mountain. To another Shredder. Attack for 6. Very aggressive. I think they might just be dead here. We're going to go down to 4. Okay, that makes it easy. Opponent scoops. Opening 7 is acceptable. We'll keep it. Steam Vent Shock. Ragavan. You'd love to see it. Play out a basic Forest into our Young Wolf. As long as there's no prismatic ending on the other side of the table, we're happy with the way things are going right now. No attacks from our opponent. Untap, drew into a Wall of Roots. Excellent draw. Verdant Catacombs. I think we're going to shock here into a Wall of Roots. I think we're going to play out our Ignoble first. We'll just pass the turn back. Okay, expected that to happen. Bolt down the Hierarch. Fetch end of turn. Sacred Foundry tapped. Opponent leads with an expressive Iteration. Scalding Tarn, they got their 3rd land. Fetch. Hallowed Fountain. This is going to be a prismatic ending on the Young Wolf. Ragavan, no attack still. Endurance, excellent draw. We're going to play out this Beseiju, and we're going to play out a Geist. The reason I'm tapping my mana like this is so I can cast Endurance on their turn. Another iteration. Mishra's Bauble, Steam Vents Shock to an Unlicensed Hearse. Bauble, they target me. In turn, we're going to cast this Endurance out. Target them. Another Cord, pretty good. Cast out this Halfling, get ourselves a Yogg. Opponent has 5 cards in hand. and they lead with a Teferi. Bounce my Yogg, I'm going to respond. We're going to dump down the Ragavan, drew into a Grist. On the next turn, my opponent proceeded to Unholy Heat my Strangleroot Geist, and then attempted to eat it with their unlicensed herds, but misclicked, and the Geist came back into play. For the remainder of this game, I treated it as if the Geist was not in play. Opponent untaps, plays a Dragon's Rage Channeler, 4 card types in the graveyard. Okay, my opponent's going to Unholy Heat my Yogg. We're going to let that happen. Another iteration, Blood Moon to the graveyard. Consider Flooded Strand. Fetch with a Flooded Strand, basic island, keep a card on top. Untap, drew into a Pylon. We're just going to pass turn back. Spire Bluff Canal, Ledger Shredder. Opponent with a Consider. We're going to respond to this. Cast a Bowmasters. We're going to hit the Dragon's Rage here. Hit the Dragon's Rage again. And we're going to hit it again. We're going to Pylon the Shredder end of turn. Bowmasters deal 1 to them. Pylon resolves. Put both these into our graveyard. Untap. Play out Twilight Mirror. Swing for 7. Opponent's down 3. They untap. Dragon's Rage. Iteration. Bobble. Trigger the Channeler. Dragon's Rage to the graveyard. Shredder. And the opponent scoops. Opponents on the play. Our opening 7's a little slow, but I think we're going to keep it. Opponent appears to be on Living End. They lead with a Grief. Let's see what they take. Take our Eldritch Evolution. Strange choice. Misty Rainforest. Back to us. We draw a Blooming Marsh. We're just going to lead on basic forest past the turn. They fetch. Land tapped. Untap. Botanical Sanctum. Back to us. Another land. Play out our Innkeeper. Trigger. Pass the turn. Opponent cycles their Waker of Waves. Puts a Living End to the graveyard. They only have 1 more Living End left in their deck. Better make it a good one. Scalding Tarn in play. Drew into a Chord of Calling. Play out our Blooming Marsh into a Grist. We're going to plus our Grist. Land to the graveyard. Unfortunate. Attack for 1. Opponent fetches end of turn. Basic island. Could be problematic. Cycle of Waker Waves. Okay. We're okay with that. Cycle of Striped Riverwinder. They untap. Opponent plays on Otawara. Cycles an Architect. Cycles a Street Wraith. Casts a Violent Outburst. This is going to be a problem. Don't think we can win from this point. We're going to scoop it up. Game 2, let's go. On the play, we have an Endurance, we'll keep it. Simple as that. Opponent keeps their 7. Start with a basic, the Forest, into a Halfling. Pass turn, Breeding Pool, untapped. Cycle a Riverwinder into a Grief. Endurance is down. And in very anticlimactic fashion, I was unable to find another Endurance before my opponent was able to find their Living End and flood the board with monsters. I got run over in a very uneventful game. But not for nothing, this list was very impressive, and Orcish Bowmasters was the standout MVP over the course of the time that I tested the card over the past few days. A huge shout out to Awesome Possum for lending me the Delighted Halflings to play this league. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. I will see you all next time. You know the deal, everybody. Be well.